All right, gentlemen, the Bulwark after patch 7.0, I would say he feels at least 30% more effective than he did before the prestige ranks. So very, very nice progressing through his prestige ranks, and they all felt pretty meaningful. So the first thing we're going to get into before we talk about the builds, and we will go over all the weapons and everything like that, and it will be timestamped in the description. But before we do that, let's get into the prestige ranks and exactly the route you're going to want to take for these guys right here. So when it comes to the prestige ranks, this is the exact order that you're going to want to take them in. And I would say the most effective prestige ranks are 1, 2, and 3. 4 is more of an optionary one. If you want to stay at 3, completely up to you. You know, obviously I'm going to grind to 4 with all my characters, but the first 3 I find absolutely necessary on the class. So we got number 1, you're going to take Overcharge for your first perk, which is charge attacks damage increases by 20%. Helps a huge amount on the Power Fist, and then it does supply some damage to your Power Rake on the Power Sword as well. But it is mostly noticeable on the Power Fist. So when you grab this, running your early levels with the Power Fist is highly recommended until you get Intimidating Aura, and then I would switch over to the Power Sword. But that's completely up to you. The next one I'm taking is Masterful Defense. Top tier of prestige perk for sure. So ability charges restored 1% for every blocked ranged attack. It is as good as it sounds. Every time you block a light ranged attack, you are going to get 1% of your ability charge back. And I would say overall, you're probably using your ability at least 50% more when you have this perk available. So that is why you're taking that number 2. And then your third one is just filling up a great gap in your ranged damage. So it will increase by 20%. And anything that's helping you take care of Neothropes and anything that's in the sky is very, very helpful. And then for the fourth perk, now this one you have some options. Standard Bearer, I just wanted to test this one out and I wasn't having ammo issues yet. So I was like, let me just try this. And I was shocked just how effective it is, because what it does is it gives you the invulnerability for 2 seconds, but right when you start your ability, it gives it to you, meaning you can't be knocked back when you're trying to plant your banner, which I'm sure everybody has experienced. You try to plant your banner, you get hit, knocked back, it makes the noise and everything like you planted it, but it doesn't plant. So unless I just perfectly planted my banner for 25 levels, I never got knocked back trying to plant it. So I think this one ends up being a lot better than I initially thought. It's not like OP or anything. So like I said, the fourth one is kind of a preference, is if you want to go 1 to 25 again. And that one you will be swapping out. There's only one to swap out to, and that is Auxiliary Reload. So this one you're going to swap out to on very, very hard difficulties when you are lacking ammo. That's when you swap Standard Bearer out to Auxiliary Reload. So that is the only choice. The other ones are just aren't any good. You got, what is it? Rally Point, Chapter Banner additionally removes status effects, which this one is basically worthless. And then we have Resilience. Medicare Stems restore 40% more health, which isn't like horrible, but on this class, it's just not needed. So that's the route you're going, guys. So the first 3, these are the important ones. Overcharge first, Masterful Defense second, and then Powerful Shot third. So like I said, I had a great time going through the Bulwark's Prestige system, and I would guess power-wise, I would assume he probably got one of the best prestiges to go through, just judging on how much more powerful it made the class in general. I'd be surprised if the other classes are feeling quite like the Bulwark felt after I progressed through all of his. With that out of the way, let's get into our build. So our hybrid build that we have here, and the very nice thing about this is a build that you can run pretty early on. As you're seeing, there's only one perk that is in the 3rd row, so you can start building out this build while you're progressing through, and you have most of the build completed, by the time you're like 16 or something, 17. So very, very good build right here. One of my favorites in the game right now. And then just to mention, anything that I have, any builds that you have seen in mine previously, like my patch 6 builds, are pretty much working as they were, but even better when you are prestige. You know what I'm saying? So when we are looking at this one right here, let's look a little closer. So it is going to be a fencing version you're going to want to run, and you're going to want to run the Power Fist or the Power Sword. And then I'm usually running the Power Fist as of late just because it's a good switch up on the Bulwark, and it is just very, very strong when you're using the charge shots on it, or the charge hits. And then we will take just a closer look at the build right here, just some things that have switched up. We are going with Armor of Contempt now because we are standing in our blocking stance a little more with our shield to take advantage of regaining our ability back right here with Masterful Defense. So that is why we are switching over to Armor of Contempt. So not only are we blocking a little bit more, but now we will also get a lot more damage out of our blocks. And this thing does do pretty sufficient damage. Not great, but it's pretty good. It's better than it used to be for sure. And then you're taking defensive advantage, advanced conditioning, and then this is another one that you are going to want to take is Purity of Purpose. Now for this, it is really, really good when you get surrounded by a bunch of miners and you have a lot of majors to deal with. So say you have like 3+ majors on you, and then you're surrounded by miners. They're kind of annoying you because you can't concentrate on the majors. You drop this, it clears all the miners, and it does do a good amount of damage to majors and anything that it's hitting. You know what I'm saying? It's very, very strong. And then we are keeping this for our contested health. And then obviously this is it's 50% slower, but with this, I would say it's just as fast as it was, if not even just a little faster now. And then we have Merciless Resolve after Shield Bash. You get the 15%, but more importantly, you're going to want to work in the Shield Bash because then you will not lose control upon taking heavy hits, and you can't be knocked back. So that's why you want to work in your Shield Bash. And then for the last one, we're going to end it out with our Shock Nade right there. So very fun build right here, guys. And like I said, most of my previous builds you have seen work good too. But this is very good because of the route, definitely because of the perks are not very level intensive. So you don't have to take a bunch of perks, you know, from 18 on and stuff like that. So you can really have this build working at its max potential really, really early on in the game. And then our next build, I'll throw this up right here real quick just so you can see this one more time. And then we're going to move on to our defensive build after this. And for our defensive build, you're also running the fencing version of your weapons on this one. But we will have some changes to our perks. We're mostly looking for a bunch of damage reduction when it comes to this build right here. And the amount of damage reduction that you can rack up on the Bulwark now is very, very high. So we'll take a quicker look at this build and just some of the main ones here. So you got Conviction. When your armor is depleted, you take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. So 10 seconds is a long time. So every time you lose your armor and go into your red health, you're going to have 10 seconds of that time being 25% less health damage, which is very strong. And then you're in and out of your armor to your red health constantly. So you're just always really going to have that up. And then you have Scrambled Targeting. If you're surrounded by 5 or more enemies, you take 25% less damage from ranged attacks. Now for this one, with the shield, you wouldn't think that it's that useful, but when you're surrounded by 5 or more enemies, odds are you are trying to do some clearing, and this is just going to let you clear for longer, and this is overall damage. So you're going to have an overall damage reduction of 25%, not just health. This includes armor, so that's why this one is very nice, just to keep you attacking a little longer. And then really one of the last ones that is going to be helping us on our defensive build is going to be Steel Within. And you could also take Armor Reinforcement if you prefer the non-finisher gun strikes, restore 1 armor. I prefer this one just to go with all the damage reductions that I already have going on the class. This is going to give you another 30% health reduction when your health is under 50%. So when you're under 50%, you are going to be at, what was that, 30? Yeah, 55% health reduction, and then even a higher percentage in your range damage reduction. And then all these, they just pair so well when you have advanced conditioning because your contested health is going down so slow and just your normal health is going down slow on top of that. So it's a very good pairing. And the main thing you're losing, obviously, with this build is a lot of damage. You're going to lose a decent amount of damage. But, you know, this is like a situational build because, like, if you have, say you have a heavy and a sniper in your group, this build is very nice. Like, you can take a lot of damage and a lot of aggro for a lot longer and just let them guys really sit back and do what they do, and that's what they're meant to do out there, is really deal damage. So, and then if anybody is having problems running higher difficulties because they're dying too fast, this is a good build just to test out, because all of the melee damage and everything has been upped in the game. It feels a lot better than it did before. So this is a good build right here as well. I did run it through some of my playthroughs while I was prestiging, and it does feel a lot better than it did most definitely. And then we'll take just one more look at that. And then if you're noticing, for my secondary weapons, these are the two that I'm recommending, but I do recommend you play with every single secondary weapon in the game just to keep things rotating and not getting too stale, because you're going through so many different levels trying to prestige, you know what I'm saying? So definitely switch that up. Those are the two I recommend. And then, you know, in the video and in the description, we'll have all the secondaries and all their build setups, and then all the melee weapons and all their build setups as well. And for our next build that we're going to look at here, it is going to be the last one. It'll be our block build, and you're going to want to pair this one with the chainsword. This is just from some variation to your gameplay, and it gives you just a little something different to try. And there's a few different ways you can set this up, and we'll talk about that right now as we take a little deeper look at this build right here. All right, we'll talk about some of the changes that we're going to make. We're going to take forward momentum. So this is going to give our shield bash, is going to increase our damage by 30% for 10 seconds. And then you're pairing that with this one that gives you 15%. So it's actually going to be 45% damage for 10 seconds. And when you pair that with a blocking weapon, especially the blocking chainsword, it already has amazing damage. It does feel really, really nice. And then next up is going to be Armor of Contempt. The same reason I said before, we are going to be blocking a lot more. And then we're taking steel within. When your health is below 50%, you take 30% less health damage. I like the extra survivability when I'm running blocking weapons. So if you do want to run this in more of a high damage blocking weapon version, you're just going to take the shock nade route. So instead of the route you see on the screen, you're going to go forward momentum, then you're going to go shock and awe, and then you are going to go the perfect block gives you the shock nade every 30 seconds. Because that's going to give you that's going to give you a decent amount more damage having this shock build. And then when you tie the 25% onto all these other damage multipliers, it is pretty nice. But for me personally, I enjoy having the extra damage reduction when I am running a blocking weapon, especially when I am running it with the Bulwark here. And then everything else is basically the same, but you are going to switch up to focus strength. This is your shield bash, knocks back enemies and makes them lose control for a longer period of time. There's two reasons why you want this when you're running a blocking weapon. One, for the obvious reason, you're using your shield bash a lot more, and getting the extra knockback on the enemies definitely help a lot. But even like just as equally as important, I wouldn't say, is that when you shield bash with this active minor enemy, it opens up a gun strike every time you shield bash them. So that is very useful for grabbing armor back, when grabbing armor back isn't quite as easy with the blocking weapons. And then other than that, everything else is basically staying the same. So when it comes to blocking with the Bulwark, you know, I haven't ran the cleaving, or I haven't ran the blocking power sword or the power fist for a little time now. I really didn't like them at first, so I do have to go back in there and give them a try, but I always liked how the chainsword felt in the blocking version. And I kind of think that the power sword in the blocking version is possibly going to feel a lot better in horde mode, because with that extra cleave, and there's possibly going to be even more miners and stuff on the map, it might come more in handy then. So I am going to give it a try, and if I do find that it's something I think I should, you know, let you guys know about, I will definitely do that. And then this is the last build that we're going to take a look at, and then we're going to get into some of the, like, we'll put up some screenshots of all of the weapon builds that we're working with right now. So different things like that. So right here, this is the block build that we just went over. And like I said, this is more for variety, guys. And, you know, this is how I like to spec my chainsword out right here, even when I am running the fencing weapon. And we'll get into more detail about all the weapon perks and just how you're taking advantage of different weapon perks, and kind of my reasoning behind what I'm taking from what you've seen in all these builds. All right, just for an overall melee screenshot of all of the new builds for each one of the melee weapons. This is basically what I found to be best for each one of these personally, definitely for my playstyle, and I think they'll work generally overall for most people. And then I'll leave this up for a second, and then we'll kind of go in, and I'm going to go through these perks a little bit and discuss just some of the differences, and I'm going to let you know why I'm taking what I'm taking. Now, I think we did kind of lose some build variety when it comes to, because they changed all the perks for every single weapon, guys. So if you didn't know that, everything has changed. We lost some build variety for like Tyranid and Chaos, but I think we kind of picked up build variety for class specific. And I'll get into that right now. We'll go into our melee weapons here. And the first up we're going to look at is going to be the Power Fist. So the Power Fist, the main perks that you really need on here are going to be, that's why you're kind of locked in certain lines right here. So you need heavy preparation. This is going to make your attacks charge 30% faster. So that is extremely powerful one. And then what was the other one you need? Oh, you need this one right here, Tide of Battle. Power wave forward distance increases from 4 to 8 meters. This is very, very important, and it doubles obviously your forward distance, and that makes it extremely strong. And then while performing heavy attacks, you take 20% less range damage. This is also a very important one. Any kind of damage reduction for when you are charging is very, very nice. And then our last one we are just going to pick up is going to be damage against majors. So like I said, some of the stuff kind of locks you in at certain lines, and this is the best line that I felt personally helped me best for the Power Fist, because this right here is honestly your most important one, is going to be heavy preparation. The 30% is or actually these two, Tide of Battle and heavy preparation, are your two most important ones on here. And then when we are looking at the Power Sword here, so with the Power Sword, I was looking for as much melee damage as I could possibly get on it. And then this perk right here, Armored Strength, did change. So Armored Strength now is if you have armor remaining over if you have full armor. Full armor, it made no sense, and you never have full armor. But armor remaining, you usually do have armor remaining. So this is actually a pretty good perk now. And then it is going to set you up to get the 20% after switching your sword styles. And then what else were we looking for in here? This one isn't too bad. The Power Whirl stance. Just remember, this is Power Whirl stance. So that is your Power Whirl after like you attack and you pause for a second and then you hit RB. That is this, not your power stance altogether. A lot of people confuse that. And then yeah, the 10% melee damage right here we're picking up. I elected not to go for any of the power combo increases or the speed style increases. The Power Rake, 50% more melee damage, and then this is pairing good with our 20% added to our charge attacks. And then I went all damage for me personally. Now, if I wasn't going to take all damage and I wanted to grab a little more a contested health gain from my attacks, I would drop the Miner's melee damage, and then I would pick whatever attack I'm using most often. So if I was going against Chaos, I would choose the speed style. And then if I was going against Tyranid enemies, I would go right here with the power style. And as I said before, I would just drop the Miners. So this is definitely the build that I think is working best right now on the Bulwark. And to me, it felt really, really nice. The Power Rake felt a lot stronger with the charge. And just overall, for some reason, the Power Sword just felt pretty good in the speed style of the sword. And then when we are looking right here at the Chainsword, our main ones are, we want our ground stomp area of effect to increase. And then we also want full throttle so we can grab the early combo. So if you start up your combo holding RB down and then you quickly tap RB after that a couple times, you can go into your stomp one combo early. So I'm sure most people know that. I got a video somewhere on my channel about it too from a long time ago. And then we have light combo attacks deal 10% damage, and heavies deal 15% more damage. So heavy attacks are, I think it tells you kind of where, yeah, heavy attacks are right here. So quick punch, front kick, shoulder bash, and stomp are all considered heavy attacks. So you're definitely going to want the 15% on that. You're going to grab the 20% to Miners because it pairs good with your stomp. And then we're going 15% extremist. And we do use a lot of light attacks with our Chainsword, so you are going to want the extra 3% every time you hit a light attack. And moving over to our pistols here, so getting the heavy bolt pistol is a giant win for the Bulwark. It is so much better to have this weapon to deal with Neothropes and things like that. I'm not saying the plasma is bad or anything, but when it comes to dealing with them, you know, the plasma you have to charge, the shots just not quite as much velocity on the shots. So the heavy bolt pistol is going to feel really, really nice for anybody who hasn't experienced it before, and then it just makes the class that much stronger against ranged opponents. So when we're going to look at all of the perks here and kind of go through a little bit while we're taking each one here. So this is what I'm saying, where you can kind of set these guns up for different classes now instead of like for Chaos or Tyranid, because some of these perks just complement other classes better. Like just for example, for this one right here, able damage after using a class ability, damage increases by 20% for 10 seconds. Now on this class, it don't sound that good using your class ability for 20% damage and only for 10 seconds because it's the banner and it takes a long time to reload. But somebody like the sniper who is in and out of his cloak, you know, he's going to have 20% like the whole time. So that's why I'm saying you're going to want to look through here and change them up class by class. And, you know, not as much by enemy type anymore. So next up, we got damage increases by 10% for our first one. And then each shot penetrates one additional target. So we're taking this one because we want it to really cancel out this 10% that we're going to lose. So the main way we're setting this up is we're looking for headshot damage, which we're getting 30% headshot damage. And then we are looking for as much damage as we can do to things that are further away. So that's why this one works with this class. Remote threat, enemies at a distance of more than 25 meters take 20% more damage. So this should be, most neothropes are going to be 25 meters because they're not only distance from you, but they're also up. So they should usually be about 25 meters from you, and having this added on 20% feels real nice. They go down pretty quickly, and then why we want the headshots is not only, you know, obviously just for the headshot damage in general, but why I think it's more important than the base for the Bulwark personally is because with like neothropes and zonethropes, you're getting a lot of headshots when you're shooting them. You know, they're the easiest targets to get headshots on, and they're kind of the most annoying targets for the Bulwark. So 30% headshot damage added on to this 20% 25 meter damage, added on to the 20% damage that you have on your perk now from your prestige perks. You know, there is a lot of damage being added onto this gun, and I think a lot of Bulwarks are definitely going to have a ton of fun with the heavy bolt pistol. And then what do we got up next? We'll take a look at the plasma pistol right here. So what I was looking for max damage. I wanted this thing to do max amount of damage for me, and I wanted it to give me as many charge shots as I could have, because I'm going to basically, I conserve as much as ammo as I can for anything that is troublesome for me to deal with on the ground, basically. So that is why I'm going with max damage. But, you know, there are some decent ones. Like I kind of miss having the damage radius as well. You know what I'm saying? The damage radius is nice when you're like dealing with majors, but I think when you're setting this up as a Bulwark, guys, maybe if you're running in teams, you can go with the radius instead, and you have a competent team. If you have a team that you think you're going to have to carry, going with something like this is kind of taking care of you know, your weakness in the range department when it comes to the things that you really want to save your ammo for, which is going to be zonethropes, neothropes, the guys on the discs in Chaos, I can't think of their name right now, and just different things like that. So that is why I think most people should set it up like this. But definitely, guys, for every single weapon I'm talking about, try out different builds, try out everything, especially since, you know, you're going 1 to 25 multiple times. You can have a lot of fun with different weapons and just trying different things out. So we will quickly, I'm just going to show you guys these perks right here for the bolt pistol. I do recommend checking this out and going in the headshot version, because this did get a lot of buffs in the patch. It's not as good as the heavy bolt pistol or anything like that, but it does feel better, and it does have a ton of ammo. And then lastly, the Volkite. I personally like this gun. I like it a lot more against majors, and yeah, I like it most of all against majors. I think this gun is actually pretty good against majors, but it sucks against everything else. It's not that good against minors. What else is it not that good against? It's not that good against anything that's moving around because it's too hard to heat them up, is basically the problem. So I think majors it works the best with. And this build right here, nothing really changed about this build. since I don't, yeah, no perks changed on this gun, but just picking this up since they gave us the extra mastery point makes this gun feel a lot better. So, you know, like I said, this gun works best against majors. Definitely don't try to run this gun if you are solo trying to kill anything that's flying around, because it's nearly impossible with this thing. It's not impossible, but it's just not fun. And that is going to be it for the pistols, and I will throw this screenshot up here right one more time. So guys, overall, when it comes to the Bulwark, I had a fantastic time going through all of his prestige ranks, and like I said before, rank 1 through 3, I 100% recommend you doing. Rank 4 is kind of a preference thing. It's nothing that's going to hurt the power of your class that bad. Will you be better with it? 100% you'll be better with it, but you're not going to be that much worse without it either. So, you know, that's basically how I feel. I think he's probably going to have the funnest progression through his prestige ranks than any other class. I'm going to be surprised if I feel as satisfied with the other classes as I did with the Bulwark. So, I hope everybody did enjoy this guide. I hope it was able to help out, and I will catch you on the next video.